What is up, clean freaks and filthy friends alike? Filthy Dan coming at you for another film discussion, and today we're taking a look at the creepy cult classic, the unforgettably uncomfortable, the one, the only, until they remade it, Mother's Day. So Mother's Day came out in 1980 at the beginning of the slasher craze that was, in a sense, really kick-started by Friday the 13th's release. This film has nothing to do with the holiday that bears its name, nor was it released in May. Anyway, Mother's Day was directed by Charles Kaufman, who is actually the brother of the Troma co-founder, Lloyd Kaufman. And we have Nancy Hendrickson, Deborah Luch, Tiana Pierce, Rose Ross, Holden McGuire, and Billy Ray McQuaid as our main cast in this film. So Mother's Day tells the story of three best friends that anyone can have, Abby, Jackie, and Trina, who are played by Nancy Hendrickson, Deborah Luch, and Tiana Pierce, respectively, who go out on their, I think it's their 10th get-together since they've graduated college. It's a little annual thing they do. And this year they go out into the middle of the woods in New Jersey, and they come across a savage family which is headed by the mother and her two sons, Ike and Adley. Mother has no name outside of Mother, which is understandable. But, of course, as happens in a slasher-type movie, the three women are captured and brutalized. In fact, this one goes into the rape revenge territory, which I was not expecting, but I was expecting this movie to dive into the uncomfortable. Really, as far as plot goes, that's the main deal of it. We do have a character arc with the character Abby, who is, again, played by Nancy Hendrickson. Her character is seen to... She lives with her mother, who is an overbearing, sick woman. And the voice of her mother, I gotta say, sounds like a man trying his best old lady impression. And that's kind of one thing that we see holds her character back. And it really does a lot to her self-esteem and her feeling of self-worth, which we do see kind of get a kickstart, a little fire under her ass, so to speak, as the film progresses. And it's not even really explored that much. It's one of those things that you kind of see. It's like, oh, they're trying here. There's not really a lot to expect with this one, and it's not a knock against the film, but that's one of the few pieces of character building they actually work on. This one, for as uncomfortable and brutal as it can get throughout, there's surprisingly fun to be had. It is campy, despite it not really taking place at a campground, although it was filmed on the same lake where they were shooting Friday the 13th, just on the other side of it. So that's pretty cool to know. The girls are going camping, and again, they're abducted by Ike and Adley, who are played by Holden McGuire and Billy Ray McQuaid, respectively. And, of course, they're taken to the mother, and essentially what happens at the family's little shithole in the middle of the woods is some of the most disturbing shit after Spit on Your Grave and Last House on the Left. It kind of plays in with that. That really, again, it has that really gross rape revenge thing, but it's got a mix of Ray Finkel into it, if that makes sense. If you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it gets really crazy when you see that the mother, for her entertainment, has her kids, and I mean, they're adults, but they're her kids. She has them play rape, stage rape, one of the girls, Jackie. And it's really disturbing because what I picked up from that is it's like a little play for the family. But at the same time, it's like she's conditioning them for how to abduct and rape in society. So that was really I don't even know a proper word to describe just how uncomfortable that was. And of course, the two other girls get free, and they avenge their friend because she ultimately dies. And they kick major ass and destroy the family. What I do like about this movie is that despite it being the rape and revenge films, which are really, really a challenge to watch anyway, this one, again, it tries to have fun. There is a little lightheartedness to it, and it's mostly in the first half before the girls get abducted. And it's just little character quirks too throughout. It's like, even though with the family they're really despicable, we're not supposed to like them. There's a weird charm to them. Like the mother is just she's so elegant and so proper, high on manners, but it's like you're a terrible human being. And the boys are just portrayed almost cartoonishly, like cartoonish backwoods. Like you got the big one who I don't even know what Ike's character reminds me of, and you got Adley, who he looks like a cracked out version of Bud from Married with Children, I thought. And that's actually something I noticed throughout this film, is that a lot of the actors look like the discount dollar store versions of other actors. Not all of them, but Nancy Hendrickson as Abby kind of looks like a dollar store. If you mixed Talia Shire and Margot Kidder and just dollar stored it, that's what you get there. The friend Trina the blonde, she looks like, I'm probably going to screw up the name. I want to say Shelley Long from Cheers. She looks like a discount version of her. But that's really it as far as No. During the cold open, you get store brand Richie Ramirez. Yes, the Night Stalker Richie Ramirez. And what looks like a really cracked out blonde Shelley Duvall. Yeah, it was interesting little bit in the cold open, which was fucking ridiculous, but I love the cold opening so much in this film, because you've got these two hitchhiking hippies or whatever. They're just at this little seminar with the mother, and the girl asks for a ride. And they go in the car or whatever, and you can see they're getting ready to kill her, steal her car or whatever. But the car breaks down. The boys jump out of the woodwork, kill those two. They actually cut the dude's head off, and it's great because you can tell that it's totally a dummy head. The character puts on his sunglasses just before he gets killed, just so they can hide what were probably horribly replicated eyeballs for the dummy head. And the fucking head chopping effect was just fucking ridiculous. But no, again, the characters were kind of fun in here throughout, even if they could get deplorable at times, even if they're seemingly weakly written at times, there's still some fun to be had with the characters. The whole setting of the woods I thought was pretty cool. One thing I thought was kind of weird though is this film does weird transition scenes where instead of fading to black and fading from black, it's more of a fucking orangish yellow. And that almost takes me out of the movie, but I'm almost thankful for that just because of how gritty this one can get. The atmosphere of the house that the mother and her boys live in, again, it's really reminiscent of the Ray Finkel house just a little bit. I mean, you got writing all over the walls, but it's on the inside as opposed to the outside. It's almost as if Ray Finkel's bedroom was an entire house. Not dedicated to the hatred of Dan Marino, but dedicated to the family who lives in it and their obsession with TV. That's something you can actually pick up on throughout the film, is they watch a lot of fucking TV in this film. I was actually reading up after I watched it that funny enough, TV culture and consumerism were some themes they were trying to poke fun at. And I totally see it now that I've watched it. The kills that we get are decent enough. Of course, they didn't have a really big budget at all, but what slasher type film really did have a big budget to work with in this time? But some of the kills that we get in here were actually pretty great, and we'll talk about one of them here in a while. Another thing I thought was pretty interesting was the character dynamic between the friends, because you really get the feeling that they have been friends since college, and they set that up with a nice little off-screen bit where they're looking at pictures from their college experience. Like, you hear their voices off screen, but you see them going through all these pictures from their college days. And it does pretty well to set up their friendship. And when we get to the meat and potatoes of the film, you can see that there's that almost growing away. You're starting to grow bored with your friendship after so long, because for the character Trina, it feels like they're just going through the motions at this point. Like, do we really have to do this every year? Does it make sense for us to do this every year? Aren't you all getting bored doing this every year? So it does pretty well, I think, at setting up that little inter-character conflict, which they don't really do a whole lot with later, but I feel like the events that they go through in this kind of sort of fix that, but not completely. It's like they kind of wrote this film just to have something to shoot. One scene I do really enjoy, just for how ridiculous it is it's a flashback scene where Jackie and her boyfriend in college are about to go do it out on the baseball field. And she's like, "Oh, I forgot the lube. Let me run to the car and get it." And then up in the control tower, control booth, whatever, at the field, the girls turn the lights on and start yelling over the loudspeaker about the boyfriend because he was kind of a piece of shit. And this guy is... I hate to say this guy does something that I would totally be me in that situation. It's like, all right, while I'm waiting for her, I'm just going to do some push-ups before we start fucking. And of course, the sound over the loudspeaker sends his ass running. It's like, god damn, man. I mean, that was a funny little scene, and it really does well to set up some levity before the film starts getting really disturbing and violent. And speaking of the disturbing rape aspect of this film, it doesn't do it nearly as graphic or as rough as, say, Last House or Spit on Your Grave. I mean, it's considerably dialed back from those two, but it adds there's just a whole extra element of what the actual fuck, because, as I said before, the mother is the one who is directing her kids to do this shit. It's like, why? I mean, I get that it's interesting filmmaking, but I don't know. It helps set it apart from other films, I guess. But while it's dialed back, it does still maintain the same discomfort level, like the subject matter for one, but also the way they utilize it here. There's just something about it. The way it flows is like, whoa. The revenge part, though, the revenge cycle of the film is where it gets pretty cool, because you see that after Jackie has died, Abby and Trina are like, okay, time to fuck some shit up. And like, they're both wearing short shorts, and fucking Abby has her shirt, fucking, she pulls it up and ties it like just right under her breasts there. And it's like, oh, these girls are going Rambo. They both got headbands on and shit. Fucking put a little bit of dirt on their face to get the war paint effect. And they make pretty quick work of the family when it does come time. I was surprised just how well paced it was at that point. I mean, this whole movie was pretty well paced, I thought. But the way they dispatch the family is pretty good. Of course, you get one attack on the groin, and it was on the brother that we see do the real raping part. So it's like he got what he deserved. So at least we get the just desserts in that case. The other death was interesting, and we'll talk about that one. And it's really cool when the mother dies because Abby's doing that. And here's where her arc kind of hits that transitional peak. She's the one who does the mother in. Like, they're both holding the mother down, and she's screaming, no, you can't do this to me. I'm a sick woman. Trigger in the back of the mind. I'm a sick woman. I'm a sick woman. The whole little voiceover in, like, the interior voice of her mother is playing in her head for Abby. Like, she's hearing her mom, and she's like, oh, you can play that card, bitch. So she uses these plastic titties and suffocates the mom with it. It's, I don't know, one of the funniest deaths I've ever seen, I think, in a horror film, where they're mostly trying to take themselves seriously, but she's suffocating her with these fake plastic tits, and it's like, what the fuck, man? Just a lot of fun with that. But she's kind of, you could see she's breaking. She's like, oh, you're sick? Well, you shouldn't be up and moving around. You ought to be fucking taken care of. Let me take care of you. Here you go. And it's like, oh, it's a good thing she's venting these frustrations, because God knows, what if she goes back home and kills her own mother? Oh, it's a good thing they had this little encounter. I mean, they weren't the ones who were violated, so they can kind of go on and not be as traumatized. Anyway, after that, they do bury their friend. Why they bury her out in the woods, I don't fucking know. But it's a movie, so I'm not going to complain too much. And they're walking away, and here's where I forgot to establish something. The mother is telling one of the sons that there's this monster out in the woods, Queenie, who was her sister. She was a violent little shithawk of a kid, and had her ear cut off and was allegedly killed by their mother. Anyway, she's like, no, Queenie's out there. So you see where this is going. The two surviving girls, Abby and Trina, are walking away, and the movie decides, okay, let's do some quick fast motion editing here. And it cuts from them and then shows this one-eared monster. Like, oh, Queenie, long white hair. And it just jumps out and freeze frames. Like, you hear the girls screaming it. Really stupid fucking ending, man. I thought Queenie kind of looked like a low-budget version of Ozzy in the Bark at the Moon video. Just a little bit. And I don't know, the movie ends right there. It's like, got that one last jump scare ending. I wasn't a fan of that ending. Anyway, let's get on to the filthy features. As always, we start with the favorite kill, and that goes to our resident big doofus, Ike. Now, Ike has a pretty drawn-out death scene that I thought was pretty cool. He gets Drano poured down his throat, and his fucking mouth starts foaming out this reddish pink shit. It's like a mix of the blood and the Drano, you know, and chases the girls back into the house. He's all fucking delirious. And then they smash a TV on his head, which is one of those old tube TVs. And this doesn't look like it was one of the heavier ones, but you have Abby holding this TV over her head. Those TVs, I know personally, are not that fucking light. Anyway, she's holding it over her head and slams it over Ike's head, and you can see the thing's totally hollowed out. Like, you see his face like up against the glass, like, ah! You got sparks flying everywhere and shit, smoke coming out. And you'd think he'd be dead from that, right? No. He continues crawling, and he's crawling after Trina, and Trina pulls one of those electrical knives, the electric turkey cutter knife, and she just fucking stabs him like I don't know. I lost count of how many times she stabbed him with that shit, but just for the silliness and brutality, Ike's death is easily taking away the cake on this one. As far as smutty sightings go, we get both sides of the smut spectrum. The very amazing side and the not so amazing side that I don't like to talk about. Let's get the good side out of the way first. Skinny dipping. You get the three main girls skinny dipping at a point in the film. You don't get to see a whole lot, but it's like, hey, fuck it. I like it. I would have liked to see more for the skinny dipping sequence, but there was probably no nudity clauses in the transfer that I watched this on didn't look the greatest, so it only would have tortured me more. And you get the weird funny in the middle, like we actually get male nudity in the film, which is pretty cool, I guess. It's always cool to be a equal nudity opportunity. But it's the baseball scene field. When the dude is doing the push-ups, he's actually butt-ass naked. And again, that's something I could totally see myself doing. Such a douchebag, right? But we have also on the really dark side, of course, the whole rape part, which we're going to just gloss over because I already talked about that. It's a rape and revenge film. Of course that's going to happen in here. Let's move that the fuck on. Anyway, my final thoughts on Mother's Day are this is a really cheesy, super fucking cheesy 80s film. It's got those early slasher elements. It adds the rape and revenge quality. And it somehow adds a little bit of humor and social commentary to make a pretty unique film that honestly kind of works until the ending. This movie, I thought, was, for all of its campiness, its ridiculousness, I thought it worked from the opening of the film, but the ending just kind of soured everything. It's like, I wasn't a fan of the Queenie jump scare. That's really the one thing I would take out of this movie because it was stupid. I kind of liked the idea of Queenie being the possibility that Queenie is just something that the mother uses to keep her kids in control. Because that's kind of where I thought the film was going to go there. She's using Queenie as an entity to manipulate her boys into doing what they do and taking care of her and the whatnots. But yeah, this film is one that I do not own because on Amazon, it is like $80 for the Troma DVD and like $40 for the VHS tape. And I enjoyed this film, but I don't think I enjoyed it enough to spend that much to own it. But this is one I really would like to add to my collection. I know when I watched it, it was on Amazon Prime. Paid the $2.99 renter's fee, and I would say that's a reasonable price to pay to watch this one for a 3-day period. So I would definitely recommend that you guys check it out. It was fun, but of course pretty disturbing at parts. But it's tamer than some of the other films that take place in the rape revenge realm of horror. But there's still fun to be had in this one for what it's worth. Definitely advise checking it out. So that was Mother's Day. As always, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please be sure to hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Don't be selfish. And also, go ahead, if you have not already, and stab that fucking subscribe button. Do not be a shitter, please. And if you're feeling extra filthy, go ahead, leave a comment down below. What are your all's thoughts on the Troma entertainment? Outside of Toxic Avenger, what Troma films do you advise I seek out? As always, y'all stay filthy.